Hi, my name is Valerie Haber, and I am a voice teacher and a professional opera singer. I started singing when I was in elementary school, and I loved it, so I kept doing it. In middle school and high school, I sang in all the choruses, did the musicals, played viola and piano, and played in the orchestra, and really loved doing that so much I decided to do it in college. So in college, I was a voice performance and opera major and got my bachelor's in music. I also minored in musical theater and minored in music business, so I learned about how the business works with opera companies and theater companies. And I also minored in anthropology. After college, I decided to take a couple years to work some different jobs, figure out what I wanted to do, how much I wanted to pursue singing. So I did some waitressing, and I was a nanny, and I was a bookkeeper, and I also started teaching private voice lessons. And then I decided to get a master's degree because if you want to be a voice teacher or a professional singer, you really need to have that master's degree. So I went back to school, got my master's degree, continued to teach private voice lessons on the side there. And then I decided to move back to Philadelphia, where I'm from, and near a big city, and know my way around here. And I thought this would be a good place to settle. And so then I realized that I really liked teaching voice lessons more than I loved performing. So I really started settling down and teaching voice lessons. So I teach about 25 to 30 hours a week right now. I have about 40 students or so. The most I've ever had is close to 50. And I spend about 5 hours doing administrative work, emails, working on my schedule, and maybe about 5 hours doing my own professional development stuff like practicing and taking lessons and stuff. I'm also on the chorus roster of the Opera Philadelphia. So I do about 2 to 3 productions a year with Opera Philadelphia, the professional opera company in Philadelphia. And being in Opera Philadelphia, I'm part of a union. The education required to be a teacher, it's not a licensed career, so you don't actually need any official education. Anyone could say, I'm a music teacher and teach privately. Most music teachers I know have a bachelor's in music. Many also have a master's degree. If you wanted to teach at the elementary, middle school, or high school level, some private schools have have private voice teachers. You would need a bachelor's degree. If you wanted to teach in public school, you'd be a choral teacher or a band teacher, and that also needs a bachelor's degree. If you wanted to teach at the college level, part-time, you would need a master's degree. And if you wanted to teach full-time at a college, be like a tenured professor, you'd need to have a doctorate. In terms of continuing education, I am part of an organization called the National Association for Teachers of Singing, and that connects me with other teachers. They have a newsletter, they write articles, there's a journal with different articles about singing. They have conferences and workshops, so that's how I can keep myself abreast of like new scientific things with singing and enhance my craft in that way. I take my own lessons. I have 2 teachers. I have a teacher for my opera style and a teacher for musical theater style. So I keep taking lessons every couple months to keep myself in good shape with singing. I like to learn about different styles, so I'll go on YouTube, listen to different singers. I stay current by being in the opera chorus. I hear the current talents of the opera singers because we get great talent at the opera company. And so that's how I do like continuing education and reading books about singing. The personality traits one would need to be a voice teacher, I think it's important to really be compassionate and empathetic. Singing can be very personal, and it's hard sometimes when people feel like you're judging their voice, which is my job, but it can be hard for people, and it can be emotional as we sing songs about like emotional things. So I think you really need to be compassionate and empathetic and be able to communicate. So the communication skill is the next big one. I need to be able to tell a student how I want them to sing, even though I can't see inside their larynx and to see actually what their instrument is, whereas a piano or a violin is on the outside, your instrument's on the inside. So I have to have creative communication skills to get students to do what I want them to do. I have to have decent writing skills because I need to write recommendation letters for my seniors every year, and I have to write emails to parents all the time about different things. I have to be organized because I'm managing a calendar of my family plus 40 plus students and figuring out my calendar every week. And the other one would be the creative problem solving, which goes with communication about how to get what I want out of the student's voice. Piano skills are important because I play the piano while my students are singing. The demands of my job physically, I'm sitting most of the time, and I have to be able to play piano. And the mental challenge would be the problem solving. There's a lot of experimenting. I try different things to see if I can get the student to sing the way I want them to sing. The tools I have in my studio, I need a piano. Music stand, I have this very large tablet here that I read music off of, so I don't have to waste too much paper. I have a recording device so I can make recordings of myself or my students. I have 2 phones, one phone for my personal, for my family and friends, and another phone for my students so that I can kind of separate my work and personal life. And I've got a whole lot of music books. Once the pandemic started, my tools increased a little bit. I bought an iPad to have a better online experience with my students. I bought a very nice pair of headphones so I could hear them better as we did virtual lessons. And I bought a microphone, a mic stand, and a speaker so that I could teach outside sometimes. And I have a portable keyboard. So that all has been useful in terms of my tools. The favorite part of my job is that I'm my own boss. I make my own schedule. I decide how much I charge. I decide how long I work, when I work. I don't have a commute. I teach out of my house. I have control over my environment and, have breaks when I want. So that control is really nice. The negative part about my job would be that the schedule isn't always reliable. Work isn't always reliable. I'm accountable completely to myself. There's no one else to hold me accountable to make sure I work enough or do the things I need to do. I'm all on my own. I have to manage my own schedule, manage my payments. I did my own taxes for a while at the beginning. Now I don't necessarily do all my own taxes, but I have to pay these quarterly taxes and that kind of thing. I don't have any coworkers. That's probably my least favorite part about the job is, my students are great, but I don't have like peers and coworkers. So I have to really go out of my way to create connections with other teachers since we just kind of work all on our own. That's why I love my Opera Philadelphia job. I also sing in a church choir, so that gives me contact with other singers. I just need to handle all aspects of the business. My house is my business, so I have to take that into account in terms of the homeowner's insurance we have. Before we moved into this house, I had to make sure I had the right zoning laws, so I was allowed to teach in the house. I have to be conscious of my neighbors, and if we're making noise, there's certain hours I'm allowed to teach in the neighborhood as part of zoning laws, so we just have to be aware of all of that. So that went into our decision for where we're going to move and what house we bought, so that's a lot. If someone wanted to be a teacher, a voice teacher, but didn't want to have all those logistics, you could work at a private music school or an after-school music program where they would make the schedule for you and handle all the payments for you. There's also online teaching referral programs that handle the payments but not the schedule, so you can kind of half control some things. So there's a lot of different things out there to help you be a music teacher, and you can vary how much you're in charge of that. The average day in my life, I would say first thing in the morning, I would check my emails and my texts to see if any students had contacted me to cancel or reschedule or needed something with their lessons that day. And then I would go about my day, cooking, cleaning, going to the gym. Before I had my daughter, I would fill my day with various activities. Now I have my daughter, she's in kindergarten, so my daily activities change depending on whether I'm taking care of her, and when she goes to school, that'll change my daily activities as well. But around 2 o'clock, I would eat a big meal, prep for the day, make sure I have all the music lined up, who I'm teaching, know what I'm going to do that day. And then I teach from about 3 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And then after I'm done teaching, I do some follow-up work, follow-up emails, check for the next day's schedule, and then, relax for the rest of the evening. If I have an opera, then I would just teach in the afternoon, and then I would have opera rehearsals in the evening and some weekends. The other things I do as part of my job is I set up classes for my students, I set up recitals, and I write recommendation letters for my seniors. The normal hours of my job, I would say, if you're a private teacher working with teenagers and middle school students, you're going to work after school and on weekends because that's when they're available. If your clientele is different, you might have different hours. So if I worked for retired people or students who homeschool students or professionals who work from home or something, I might have more daytime students and more daytime work. But for me, it's after school and weekends right now. The salary range for my job, I charge $65 an hour. Most teachers in this county that I know charge between $60 and $70 per hour. If you were to go into Center City, Philadelphia, you'd be paying more like $80 to $100 per hour. And if you went to New York City, you'd be charging more like $200 plus per hour. And if you went somewhere less urban, you would be charging less. So it really kind of depends on where you live and the cost of living. In terms of gigging, I would say it's about 200 plus to sing a wedding service or a funeral service. I get paid about, I think it's like $90 per service at the church job that I work at, and about $50 per rehearsal. And for my opera company job, I believe it's about $25 per hour for rehearsal, and then 160 or 70 for each performance. So it really varies. If you wanted to be a music teacher and you want to know what courses you could take to prepare, I'd say the first one, of course, is music. Take your music lessons, be in ensembles, be as well-rounded a musician as you can. If there's any kind of business, marketing, or finances classes, that would be really useful because you're managing, any singer or musician is doing a lot of managing of their own schedule and their marketing and their finances until you get to a really high level, and then you'd have a manager or an agent. The other topics are going to come up. So English, I need to have decent writing skills and communication skills. So English and language arts is important. Math is important for music theory. History is important to know the context of the musicals that you're in and the operas that you're in, because usually they're written about in certain times of history. So it's good to know what was going on in the world around then. Science is important, especially for a voice teacher, because I need to understand the anatomy of the body and singing and how breath support works. I need to understand a little bit of acoustics and resonance, and that involves physics. And if you wanted to do opera, you need to know some other languages, most importantly Italian, but there are also operas written in French and German and Russian, among other languages. The location where you could be a voice teacher, you could really do it anywhere. Singing's very popular. You can tell by all the different singing competition shows. They're always on TV, and people love to sing. So there's always work for people who want to teach other people to sing. It is a luxury, though, so when the economy goes down, the work tends to go down as well, because people need to save their money for more important things than voice lessons. But it's still something that a lot of people love, so I think you could go to a lot of different places and make a living being a music teacher. You just have to know your location, know your market, and be able to market yourself well. And my advice to a future music teacher: hone your craft, be the best musician you can be. Learn piano, or if you were a piano teacher, I'd say just learn a different instrument, maybe take lessons on singing or some other instrument. That goes back to the creative problem solving, where I'll use a string instrument or piano or wind instrument in an analogy to help my students sing better. So being well-rounded as a musician, and then just being well-rounded, like all the topics I said, any subject matter in school can help you in some way as you go through becoming, a singer, a music teacher, or really anything. And then I would say just expose yourself to a lot of different ideas and topics. Figure out what your values are. And if you're living by your values, then you're successful.